And now some news from Africa. There's a trouble brewing in Gambia, Africa's smallest country on the Atlantic Ocean. Defeated President Yahya Jammeh refuses to relinquish his position, while the popular president-elect Adama Barrow has indicated that his inauguration will take place outside Gambia. At this country's embassy in neighboring Senegal, troops of Western African nations, including Nigeria, are threatening military action if Jammeh does not recognize the result of the country's first presidential election. Jammeh warns that he will not tolerate such an act of war.
They are on the run from chaos and possible bloodshed. Thousands of Gambians and international tourists are fleeing Africa's smallest country, and causing their panic is one man. Yahya Jammeh, a former army colonel who led a coup to power 22 years ago, lost a presidential election and is now refusing to step down. The autocratic dictator first approached Gambia's Supreme Court seeking a re-election, but the court only gave him a 3-month extension to remit office. Jammeh has made it clear that he has no intention to do so. As for the threat of military action by Nigeria, Senegal and Ghana, whose troops are amassed on the Gambian border. An act of war if they did so, the 52-year-old despot has warned. But where is the man who toppled Jammeh, President-elect Adama Barrow? The 52-year-old businessman is waiting it out in neighboring Senegal. He was to return to Gambia for the inauguration. The man, who is supported by 22 opposition parties, will take the oath in Senegal, and yet he will be doing so on proverbial Gambian soil at the Gambian embassy in the Senegalese capital Dakar. Adama Barrow's victory has the backing of all other West African countries that are now threatening Jammeh with military action if he still clings to his chair. To Gambians wary of Jammeh's tyrannical rule, Adama Barrow comes as a breath of fresh air. The change that the country has longed for since decades. Padma Rao with Inga Mizileni, WION.
Now I'm joined by my colleague Inga Mizileni. Inga, my first question to you is, a president who came to power in a coup and clung to power for 22 years, a defeat in the democratic election, but the president won't leave and neighboring countries are threatening military action. Is this a familiar pattern in many countries of Africa?
Thank you, Kartike. Yes, it is a familiar pattern, and recently a similar situation has happened in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the president did not announce his successor and he did not call for election, and that resulted to violent protests that were very deadly. Now Jammeh is also doing the same thing, and recently he was given 90 days in office to step down.
You're saying that he was given 90 days in office to step down, but from the perspective of Africa itself, how is this act or this political episode in Gambia being perceived?
The African Union is backing Adama Barrow. Obviously, they want Jammeh to step down, and they're trying by all means to force him out of power. Adama Barrow was to be sworn in. Is to be sworn in today in Senegal at a Gambia embassy. So this situation has really gotten the African leaders on their feet, and they are pushing for democracy in Gambia.
But Inga, how serious is the threat of a civil war in Gambia? Do you really believe that if he does not step down, the neighboring countries will actually annex parts of Gambia or try to depose him? Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility because the Mauritian president tried to talk to him one last time today, but he still, his words fell on the ground because Jammeh still maintained that he would cling on to power. Although his vice president is said to have resigned as well, but he's still maintaining his word that he is not going anywhere.
Thank you, Inga. I think she made a very pertinent point, despite the fact that it's a small country, but the specter of a civil war where neighboring countries will try to annex a small state just because that there's an internal problem of succession does not bode well. It requires international pressure and it requires international persuasion.